Greetings, Starfighters. This is Paul Acevedo of Windows Central, here with a video review of the PowerA Fusion Pro controller for Xbox One and Windows. The Fusion Pro controller is intended to compete with the Xbox One Elite controller. The big difference here is this one costs much less than the Elite. The Fusion Pro controller sells for $79.99, which is a full $70 less than the official Elite controller. Unlike the Elite, it is a wired controller. It comes with a 9.8-foot braided USB cable with breakaway end. Being much less expensive than the Elite or the Razer Wildcat controller, this one does not come with a carrying case, which is understandable, although I really like the cases those controllers have. However, it does at least come with this pretty cool cord wrap. It says PowerA right there on the side. It's made of rubber, seems fairly durable as these things go. So you can wrap it around your cable while transporting it, or simply to keep it from being longer than you need it to be. The thick part with the PowerA logo squeezes through this rubber end, and then you can simply put these orange things through the slots here, and it holds them in place. It doesn't get as tight as I'd like. If I really tighten it like this, then it won't actually close down here. But I can tighten it to this extent, which keeps the cord under control for me, and if I had the entire cord in here, then it actually would hold it properly. A lot of people don't own cable wraps, even though they are really convenient. So this is a nice alternative, and it does help your controller be a little more portable. Alright, now I've plugged the controller in. We can take a closer look at it. You have a PowerA logo etched into the side here. Standard style D-pad, pretty similar to the official Xbox One controller's D-pad. The two analog sticks have larger heads than the official controllers, and the edges are ridged in a different way. These edges are less likely to collect dirt, which is definitely a good thing. Slightly taller and wider than the official controllers, but the top parts are especially wider, which I don't mind, although I don't tend to keep my fingers in place exactly like that. I keep them more a little bit to the edge, like so. Up at the top we have the bumpers and triggers. Triggers are just a little bit smaller than the official controllers, not dramatically so. They still feel good. On the back we have 3 buttons dedicated to lighting, 4 unique programmable buttons, and trigger lock switches. The Fusion Pro controller also has a built-in 3.5mm headset jack, which is a definite improvement over PowerA's previous controllers, like the Mini controller, which we already reviewed here on our channel and at our website. The downside to this particular design is that there is no data port, and because there is no data port, you can't use the chat pad because there is simply no place to plug it in. That is a big shame, but apparently Microsoft isn't allowing third parties to use data ports in their controllers yet. One feature that sets the Fusion Pro controller apart from either the Elite or the Razer Wildcat is that it has built-in colorful lighting. Using these buttons on the back here, we can enable lighting right here, and then also enable lighting for the analog sticks. I really like that analog stick lighting. By default, these just cycle between a lot of different colors. I kind of wish the patterns of colors were automatically synced together because they're not cycling the exact same colors, which is a feature that some of us might want. Also, I'm not crazy about this downward arrow shape of light up here. It's not horrible, but it's just not really my thing. But there's still more cool stuff we can do with these lights. Pressing the top lighting button again just changed it to a different cycling pattern. Again, now it's just reddish. Now I push the bottom one, second cycling pattern, and now it actually is the same color. So if I want these both to be kind of a pinkish color, then I can do that. Here's a greenish color. A few more presses and I get a nice blue. So here I've got kind of a Windows Central color theme going on with the blue and pink. I can also adjust the brightness of the lighting. I don't think we can actually see that here in this brightly lit room, but there is a brightness button which increases the brightness and eventually resets it to the default level of brightness. And if you don't like the lighting effect, keep pushing the buttons There's purple, that's pretty cool. And eventually the light goes off. Note that the controller does not save your lighting settings, so every time you turn on the controller or plug in the controller, you will have to re-enable the lighting if you want it on. Which is a slight downer because this controller does save some custom button settings, so it's a shame they didn't think to allow you to save your lighting settings as well. The Fusion Pro controller has 4 programmable buttons on the back of the controller, and these are the equivalent of the programmable paddles on the Elite controller. These programmable buttons don't do anything by default, which is different than either the Elite controller or the Razer Wildcat. I think they might as well have doubled up the functions of the bumpers and the triggers by default, but no, you're going to have to program them yourself for the first time. To program a button, I will press and hold the program button here on the front for 2 seconds. Then the lighting starts to flash. Now it's in programming mode. Now I have to first press the button that I want to relocate. You have to hurry and do this or it exits programming mode. Now I'm going to program the A button to this back left button right here. Should be programmed. Yep, there it goes. All right, now I can jump with the programmable button. Now let's go ahead and program the back right button with right trigger to make it fire. Yep, and now it shoots. A little downside to the programming functionality is that you can only program specific button functions to these rear buttons. You can do the 4 face buttons, the bumpers and triggers, and the clicking in the stick buttons. So I can see that clicking in the stick being pretty useful. But what you can't program to these 2 buttons are view and menu, back and start, nor can you program D-pad presses. So in that way, the Wildcat is a lot better since it lets you program those extra things. After programming those functions into the controller, they are saved and they'll stay there. So the controller does have built-in memory, which is good. You only have one single profile to work with, but I don't find that to be a big deal. And if you want to deprogram the functions, then you press and hold the program button for 2 seconds to get it into programming mode. Now we press and hold it for 5 more seconds. This will clear the memory. All right, and those buttons no longer do anything. They've returned to the default status. On the subject of the rear buttons, I should point out that they are a lot harder to press accidentally than the Elite controller's paddles. When you set the controller down, they're not going to come into contact with the surface, unlike the Elite's paddles, so that's a good thing. It is still possible to hit them by mistake. I do it a little bit when I grip the controller too hard, but for the most part it's something you can learn to avoid pretty quickly. Your fingers are always going to be over these 2 buttons when you're gripping the controller. They are easy to access and easy to use without having to reach for anything. Another one of this controller's special functions is that it has trigger locks. By default, the trigger goes down this far. But if I enable trigger lock, now it goes down probably only 1/3 as far. I feel like the trigger lock could actually reduce the travel a little more. But still, this allows you to more rapidly press the button. That could be useful in some games. The PowerA Fusion Pro controller is a really solid controller. It can only be used wired, which is a restriction imposed by Microsoft. PowerA has always made a quality D-pad, so you don't have to worry about this D-pad. It might not be the very best D-pad design out there, but it really gets the job done. PowerA also is pretty good with analog sticks. The extra large stick tops are a real differentiator between this and the Elite controller. They don't make a huge difference to me. I mostly keep my fingers kind of on the edge of the sticks anyway. But they look pretty cool, and if you wanted more surface area, then you've got it. I like that it doesn't get as dirty as the official Microsoft stick tops do. It's a good shape. It has the fancy lighting options for people who are into that kind of thing. I do like some lighting on my controllers or accessories, so I certainly appreciate this. And most importantly, this controller is bringing you some cool features at a dramatically lower price compared to the Elite controller or the Razer Wildcat. It's an $80 controller, and for that extra $20, you're getting a lot of features that the real Xbox One controller does not have. You've got the lighting, the trigger locks, and the programmable buttons. Downsides are the lack of wireless functionality and the inability to use the chat pad, and I really do miss the chat pad when I use this controller. But except for that, the Fusion Pro controller is one of the best third-party Xbox controllers I've had the pleasure of using. So if the Elite Pro or Razer Wildcat are too much for you, then I definitely recommend picking this up. Thanks for watching. Be sure to read my full detailed review of the Fusion Pro controller at windowscentral.com. You can also find my detailed Razer Wildcat review there, as well as our Razer Wildcat video review here on YouTube. Please follow me on Twitter and Twitch. And remember, don't hate, appreciate.